What's up, guys? We are continuing our 2020 Big Ten predictions in the Big Ten East with Penn State today. Now, in 2019, Penn State had an 11-2 record, going 7-2 in the Big Ten, with their two losses on the road to Minnesota and on the road to Ohio State. In somewhat close games, both were very competitive. They capped their season off with a 53-34 win against Memphis and are looking for more in this new 2020 season. However, they did lose some production. On offense, losing one of their contributing running backs, probably third stringer, running back Ricky Slade, wide receiver Justin Shorter, their go-to number one wide receiver KJ Hamler, Nick Bowers, their second string tight end, and Steven Gonzalez, who is the only starter on the offensive line who's leaving. So overall, they don't lose too much. They don't lose real production from the running back core. They still have their number one tight end, keep their QB. The one area they really need to figure out is the wide receiver position. They need guys to step up there. And on the defense, they lost Yetur Gross-Matos on the D-line, Robert Windsor also on the D-line, and then you have John Reed, the cornerback, Cam Brown from the linebacker position, Jan Johnson from the linebacker position, and Garrett Taylor from the safety position. So this defense also does lose a lot, but I think that they still have a lot of young guys returning who have good experience, and their defense really won't be too much of a problem this year. And once again, these predictions are based off of what we know about the coronavirus so right now, which is that there will most likely be very reduced fans, or maybe even no fans at all. So that's something we're taking into consideration in these picks. And week 1, Penn State starts the season against Kent State, and I know Penn State has a history of kind of struggling in these early games recently. 2018, they had that close game against App State, almost lost that game. 2019, they did destroy Idaho, but they did start slow against Buffalo, and that Pitt game was very close. Pitt was actually should have been even closer, possibly even overtime, but some questionable calls there by Pitt. So, yeah, but still Kent State, not the greatest team. Penn State has the talent advantage by far in this game, and it's at home. Penn State should take care of this one pretty easily. And that leads us into week 2, a very intriguing matchup. Penn State is going on the road to Blacksburg, Virginia to play Virginia Tech in Lane Stadium. Now, this was really something I was kind of disappointed about just with the coronavirus, because Penn State going into that atmosphere in Lane Stadium, it would have been a great atmosphere. Lane Stadium is always crazy, especially when they host these top 10 teams. And it's kind of a shame that we don't get to see this interesting matchup. These two teams have never played before. It would have been real fun. But with that being said, Virginia Tech has kind of been struggling in that 7-5, 8-4 range for these past few years. Haven't really been able to get over the hump. If they were able to beat a team like Penn State, that would be huge for them going into their season, and huge for the ACC, as the ACC really needs to boost their resume as far as like their conference in there, because their conference has really been struggling. It's really only been Clemson. But with no fans or limited fans at this game, I think Virginia Tech's chance at winning this game was really all dependent on the huge atmosphere and all the hype, but that's really not going to be there. And I think Penn State takes care of this one. Sean Clifford is going to do well. I really do believe that. And yeah, I don't see Virginia Tech winning it with no fans there. Now, Penn State will host in week 3 San Jose State. San Jose State, they were at first, we all thought this game was going to be canceled, as the president of San Jose State said there would be no fall classes in person, but San Jose State did some figuring out, I guess. This game will be going on. Penn State should definitely take care of this game. I don't know too much about San Jose State, but I know Penn State has far better talent, so Penn State's going to get this win and go 3-0. Now they open Big Ten play at home against Northwestern. Northwestern had a really bad year this year. I expect them to bounce back. Pat Fitzgerald will get their team ready, but too early in the year. I know Peyton Ramsey, transfer from Indiana. He's still, learning this system, and with not a lot of offseason, I don't see this game being close at all. I think Penn State takes care of business and starts the season 4-0. Now, this is going to be a huge test for the Nittany Lions. In week 5, they go on the road into Ann Arbor to play the Michigan Wolverines. Michigan has obviously got revenge on their mind, and in the last 4 years, The home team has won this game. It's gone back and forth. They were trading blowouts for a while. Last year was finally a close game where Penn State took the win. That being said, though, I see Penn State winning this game because I don't know what Michigan is going to do with the quarterback position. They also lose Donovan Peoples-Jones, one of their key receivers, and I just think Penn State is far more improved than last year, and I think Michigan is going to stay in that 8-4, 9-3 range, especially with their schedule being as hard as it is. So I have Penn State beating them. And also, obviously, there's not going to be a lot of fans there. If there was, full capacity, full Michigan stadium, the big house rocking, maybe Michigan would get the slight advantage here, but with no fans, I got to give the win to Penn State. And then Penn State goes into their bye week, and then on October 17th, Penn State hosts the Iowa Hawkeyes. And the thing about Iowa is they've really been struggling. I don't think they're going to be anywhere near as good as they were last year. They lost Nathan Stanley. They lose a bunch of key players, and the schedule was pretty hard for them as well. And Iowa goes on the road to play Ohio State the week before this game, which just makes it even harder for them. And they have Penn State coming off the bye week. Just a whole lot of factors, and it's at Penn State. Obviously, there's not going to be too many fans there, but just the travel element. I really don't see any way Iowa pulls this one off. And Penn State has won 6 straight against the Hawkeyes. They own them in this series. I don't see Iowa getting or breaking the streak this year. And now that leads us into one of the biggest games of this 2020 college football season, Ohio State at Penn State. Now this is another one of those games where it's just such a shame that there won't be able to be a full crowd there. Most likely at least, because this is scheduled to be the Penn State's whiteout game. They would probably have 110,000 there rocking. It's one of the hardest environments in all of college football, and Penn State always does well in these games. Even when they're not favored to win or they're underdogs, they typically make it a close game. So this was going to be a close game, I think, no matter what. And then if Penn State had the crowd, I would certainly be going with Penn State here, as the talent level is comparable. Sean Clifford can probably lead this team, especially with a good, strong running attack that they have. The defense, I think Micah Parsons would come up huge in this game. Penn State players would have to step up for them to get this win, but I think they could have pulled it off if they had the big crowd. But without the crowd, I think Justin Fields is too experienced. This Ohio State team is just such a well-oiled machine. I don't see them losing this game. And that gives Penn State their first loss, making them 6-1 on the season. And now, the following week, they go on the road to Indiana. Now, say this was a normal season, I would actually have Penn State beating Ohio State and then losing to Indiana in a trap game. Indiana is one of the most slept-on teams in college football. They went 8-5 last year, a lot of close losses to good teams, and this year I expect them to be even better. They don't lose too much. They still got their quarterback coming back, and Indiana has a really easy schedule up to this game. They play Wisconsin week 1, and then their next 5 or 6 games, they are going to be favored in all of them. So this could even be a possible, similar to the Penn State at Minnesota game in 2019, where Indiana, especially if Indiana upsets Wisconsin week 1, but Indiana can very well be ranked at this time. They'll probably be 6-1 or 5-1. I forget where their bye week is, but yeah, I think they'll probably be 6-1 at this time. So it'll be really interesting to see this game play out. However, with no fans, and especially after a Penn State loss, I don't see Penn State still sleeping. James Franklin has corrected that, I think, especially after the back-to-back years, 2017, 2018, where they lost a heartbreaker to Ohio State, and then they'd follow up with losing another heartbreaker to Michigan State. I don't see that happening again. I think Franklin keeps his team motivated, and they find a way to win a close game in Bloomington, Indiana. Now, next week, they go on the road to Nebraska. And now Nebraska is one of these tricky teams. Everyone's got a different opinion on Nebraska. Last year was supposed to be, a big year for them. Adrian Martinez really did not play up to what everyone was expecting. Scott Frost I'd say he's on the hot seat now, because Nebraska really needs to get to a bowl game. But this Nebraska schedule is just so hard. They finish their last 5 games. They play Penn State, Ohio State, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Iowa, or something crazy like that. very hard back end of the schedule. I don't see with Nebraska doing well in this game with no fans or limited fans. I think Penn State wins this game by about 2 touchdowns or so, something like that. And next week we have Michigan State coming into Penn State. This is, Michigan State is going to be significantly worse than they were last year. Losing D'Antonio, no off season with a new coach, new system, almost entirely new coaching staff. It's just a tough situation for Michigan State right now. And honestly, just looking at Penn State's schedule right here, after the Ohio State game, just reflecting back on this, they play Indiana on the road, Nebraska on the road, at home against Michigan State, at home against Maryland, and on the road against Rutgers. Those are 5 games where Penn State will probably be favored by at least a touchdown in all of them, and most of them probably more than that. So that's just something to keep in mind, that Penn State kind of has a nice schedule here with the back end of it. Anyways, going back to Michigan State, they lose their quarterback Brian Lewerke, lose some other key players on the defensive end, or the defensive side of the football, and I don't see them going into Beaver Stadium and winning this game. Just with all that's going on in their program, they are really destined for a down year this year. And this leads us into week 12. Maryland is going on the road to Penn State. Now, Penn State has dominated the Terps recently. It's been 3 years since the Terps have even scored a touchdown against the Nittany Lions. And then, obviously, last year, the Terps had that great start, starting off 2-0, beating ranked Syracuse, putting up like 70 points a game, then somehow just losing to Temple, and then getting absolutely obliterated against Penn State, 59-0 in front of their sellout crowd, which is something Maryland does not do often, so that's very embarrassing. And I just don't know what direction Michael Locksley has this program going in. I know they have Tagovailoa. We don't know his eligibility even. They have recruited well. They're starting to get the DMV. Maryland's trying to start to get that as one of their main areas. There's a lot of talent in the DMV, and they're really trying to control it. But I don't see Maryland going into Beaver Stadium winning this game. I think Penn State blows them out. And last but not least, Penn State goes on the road to Rutgers. Now, Rutgers I know they have Greg Schiano, who's trying to turn this thing around, but it is not going to be an easy job. It's not going to be a one season. Maybe, it's going to be 2 or 3 years, I think, at best, before they even make it to a bowl game. It's just a tough spot. It is a good recruiting ground. New Jersey has a lot of talent. If Greg Schiano can start recruiting and keeping these good, talented players from New Jersey to stay in New Jersey with Rutgers, then I think he has a shot at some success here. But this year, no way. I think Rutgers is bound for another 3-win season. So Penn State's going to win this game, and that puts them at 11-1. And this is a very interesting position, possibly a college football playoff berth, as that one loss is to Ohio State, and that is in the middle of the season, and they have five games against easier team opponents where they should win. So it's really their fate. I think will depend on what everyone else is doing in the SEC. They're gonna obviously only one team from the SEC can make it. Ohio State will need to run the table, and they're gonna need some help for sure. But this is definitely a possibility of a playoff berth for this team. I think anything if they definitely want to get to 11 wins this year. If this team gets 10 wins and then some New Year's 6 bid, it's probably going to be underperforming. I think this team really, the expectation is playoffs for this team. They have a very talented team. After this year, they're going to see a lot of guys go pro. A lot of guys are leaving after this year. So I think this is the year, if any, Penn State needs to make this playoff push. And they also have Ohio State at home. And I think Penn State really is actually going to be helped by coronavirus, as far as the no fans, because they would have had to go on the road to Virginia Tech in a very hard atmosphere, and that game would have been a toss-up, and also on the road at Michigan. So those are some hard games. Also, they would have to go on the road against Nebraska. Nebraska will definitely have sell that game out against a top 10, I'm assuming, Penn State team. The only problem is they don't get that home atmosphere against Ohio State, but they can still make their way into the playoff against Ohio State, even they can still make their way into the playoff even with a loss against Ohio State. So that is something to keep an eye on, just how the coronavirus will impact Penn State. But yeah, if Sean Clifford has a good year this year, the running back core, one of the best in the nation with Journey Brown, Devin Ford, and Noah Kane. All those backs were really productive last year. Sean Clifford, if he can get some wide receivers to step up, I know Jahan Dotson will be the number one receiver. Kenny George will look to have a bigger impact this year. Obviously, Pat Freiermuth, the best tight end. I believe the best tight end in college football. Preseason All-American. And then the offensive line is going to be very, very good. They only lose one starter. I think one of the best offensive line is in the Big Ten. And you match that with their running back core, it's going to be a dangerous offense. The play-action game, the read option for Sean Clifford and Penn State is going to, I think, very good. With Kirk Chiacco from Minnesota, this offense has the potential to be very good this year. And on the defensive side of the ball, they've just got studs everywhere. Lamont Wade, one of the most underrated DBs in the nation, I believe. And then you got Micah Parsons in the at the linebacker position. Young talent, PJ Mustipher, Antonio Shelton, just on the D-line. So really, I think this is going to be a solid team for Penn State, and hopefully we have a college football season because it'll be exciting to see what this team does. Thank you for watching this video, and comment down below what you think Penn State will do. And if you enjoyed this video, leave a like and subscribe for more college football videos. Thank you.